and the New York Times will act like it's not a big deal, and they're just going to get crazier and crazier, and they're just blinded by hate and rage now. And the left, especially, have just lost their frigging minds collectively. They've just lost their minds.
We're working towards, and I've never been oppressed or discriminated against, so I'm not saying that. I have a good life, especially based on my race and everything, that's fine. But we're working towards segregating and oppressing white guys.
These next two sentences, I feel like I should have copyrighted because this has been my thing for years now. Twitter is not on the masthead of the New York Times, but Twitter has become its ultimate editor. That is it, plain and simple. And not for the New York Times. Twitter's become the ultimate editor for everything.
The world. Yeah.
Every decision that is made.
Coronavirus.
Everything. Everyone who's fired, everyone who's hired, everyone who's changed, every decision that's made. Everything is done because of Twitter. Twitter is fucking poison.
Twitter's become like the nervous system of the American media.
And by the way, as we always say, X% is on it.
Yeah, I think it's like 13% of adult Americans.
Let's even say it's 38%. That's fucking crazy.
But it's not just the percent of Americans who are on it. It's the type of American.
Well,
it's the media.
Of course.
The media. If you looked at the members of the media who are on Twitter, it's probably 99%.
And it'll show how much Twitter controls everything because now she'll just be written off as some.
Well, I saw yesterday all the blue check marks were like
conservative.
Oh, and I understand this instinct to some extent because part of me is like, well, you took your ball and went home.
Well, she's not going home.
But I mean, she quit as opposed to trying to stay there. You know, sort of the like the Brandon attitude. Which is I'm going to stay and change. So, but I'm saying
But maybe she found that's fucking impossible.
Correct. But I'm saying
that analogy would fit if Brandon was still being called the N-word by his fellow employees.
Sure,
because she was enduring harassment across the board.
No, what I'm saying is I understand the instinct at first to say that, like you quit. That's not what I think. Or she did quit, but I'm saying I think she did the right thing. But I'm saying I can see how somebody at first would be like, "Oh, you fucking baby." Like you can't handle being
stick in there and try and change it. But I think she did for a while. It seems.
I think by quitting, she put a spotlight that only quitting could have put on the problem at the New York Times. So that was the most effective thing she could do to change the situation.
My work and character are openly demeaned on company-wide Slack channels where masthead editors regularly weigh in, which, by the way, I think happens with me at Barstool, like with K. Marco and Ellie.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, like I feel like I don't
think they use Slack, but just text
messages. Well, you know what I mean? Whatever. It's like this is what's going on. And I think this happens too with me at Barstool. Some coworkers insist I need to be rooted out if this company is to be a truly inclusive one, while others post axe emojis next to my name. Still, the New York Times employees publicly smear me as a liar and a bigot. Sounds familiar. On Twitter with no fear that harassing me will be met with appropriate action. They never are. I don't want appropriate action, by the way. There are terms for all this: unlawful discrimination, hostile work environment, and constructive discharge. I'm no legal expert, but I know that this is wrong. So she gets into that stuff, which is, interesting. But then she has another, I think, really good sentence. But the truth is that intellectual curiosity, let alone risk-taking, is now a liability at the New York Times. Replace the New York Times with just society.
Even before that, I think it's kind of an amazing sentence that she says, if this place is really going to be inclusive, they need to weed me out. Well, how is that inclusive?
Yeah, exactly.
If there's someone that disagrees with you, then you need to get rid of to be inclusive.
But you know how that works. I mean, we deal with it.
Right. She also has a line about
we'll get to an idiot later who feels that way. Go ahead.
She also has a line about how journalism used to be the first writing of history, but instead it's just become this amorphous thing that changes to suit whatever the mob on Twitter wants it to be.
That's exactly right. It's exactly right. And it's a good, she talks about, the Tom Cotton op-ed. Like, it's crazy. But, and we attached an editor's note.
Tom Cotton to do it originally, too?
Yes.
And they made it seem like it was some fucking scheme to get it in there?
We attached an editor's note on the travel story about Jaffa shortly after it was published because it failed to touch on the important aspects of its makeup and history. But there is still none appended to Cheryl Strayed. Is that her name? The woman who wrote Wild?
Yeah.
Fawning interview with the writer Alice Walker, a proud anti-Semite who believes in Illuminati. Like, it's just, and the New York Times allowed this to happen. You go through the Boston Globe now, they've allowed it to happen. There is no room now for not even like the extraordinary massive dissent, just a voice who's saying, wait a minute, aren't things fucking out of control here? I mean, people are, and we make fun, we go with Kevin all the time, and I mean, he doesn't know any better. And we'll get to, there are people who've worked at Barstool. This is a real thing. We saw this story with the museum curator who was resigned, who basically was forced to quit in San Francisco because he said the removal of, the employees said the removal of this guy was non-negotiable. They were going to quit because he said they would still be willing to accept white artists in the future,
It's-
or keep work from white artists.
It really
White
is.
male
and
artists.
so I looked at it because it was in Reason, and I actually like Reason. I follow them.
Well, you're a libertarian.
I'm a libertarian.
That's your
Elizabeth
your
Nolan
go-to
Brown
hub.
I think it works there as well. She's been on my old show. She's a good writer. She's smart. But I do think sometimes, let's go look for another story to see what I'm missing here.
Yeah, of course.
Missing nothing. This is it. This was the summation of it.
It's strange that you would get your beliefs confirmed by a source and then go try to find something else.
That's a weird instinct.
Why do you
I know.
go beyond
I
that?
apologize for that. Now, I don't mean to ruin your mood, Steve. I know you're happy about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I don't mean to put you
He was
in
very.
that mood, but,
He was a little cheerful this morning.
Hashtag pray for Ruth. That's what we're doing.
I think when a 98-year-old gets sick, I'm like, I hope she gets back to work. That's the important
Well,
thing.
the last thing that I would want is for
We're not
anything
root-
to happen
we're
to
not
her.
rooting for that, Steve.
I'm just saying that.
He's
for that,
agreeing with
Steve.
you.
I'm very worried.
No one wants anything to happen.
I want national
especially
healing.
Steve.
Steve, you know, if God forbid she passes away today, they're not going to confirm somebody before November.
Oh, no. But it would also be terrible for the country to have that added to the election, that open SCOTUS seat. We
That's
wouldn't
true.
want that.
That's true. Who would Joe Biden put up there?
Barack Obama.
He might.
Actually, I think he did the Trump thing and he released a list of judges
did he?
that he would nominate, all far left people who don't even believe in the Constitution.
Louis Farrakhan.
They don't believe in the Constitution?
Well, they believe that it's perfectly amorphous, subject to interpretation according to whatever the DNC says.
Okay.
Just like Kagan, Sotomayor.
Sure,
all
of course. Yes, they're all terrible people. We know that. We know
Scum!
That. We know that. We know that. We know that.
Nazi stuff.
But yeah, I mean, it's. I read this and I think, well, and the New York Times will act like it's not a big deal, and they're just going to get crazier and crazier, and they're just blinded by hate and rage now. And the left, especially, have just lost their frigging minds collectively. They've just lost their minds.
We're working towards, and I've never been oppressed or discriminated against, so I'm not saying that. I have a good life, especially based on my race and everything, that's fine. But we're working towards segregating and oppressing white guys. Like, that's what we want. That's what we want. And it might never happen in my life, so I don't really give a fuck that much, but that's what a lot of people want, is that someday white people will be discriminated against the way other races were in the past.
Yeah, and
it's not working towards equality. It's working towards discriminating against white people.
And diversity of thought is gone. It's just gone. It's gone on both sides, I understand, but it's particularly gone to a place like the Times. They bring this person in to have some thoughts, and then they're just like, nope, we don't like you. Get the fuck out of here. It is, and I always tie things back to me. It is similar to me and Barstool. There are some people who are like, oh, this fucking guy's an asshole. They have Donald Trump Jr. on. They have Tucker Carlson on. Oh my God, he likes the police. Like, he asks questions. He maybe doubts Tory Hunter's story. We got to get him out of here, as opposed to just saying, well, okay. I mean, I this is his space. This is my space. What's the big fucking deal?
One of the ironies is that the New York Times is filled with critics of capitalism, but they're also kind of responding to capitalistic forces here because their subscriptions are up in the Trump era. So what people want from the New York Times is to be this anti-Trump viral rag, and that's what they've become. So they're a victim of capitalism.
Who knew who Jim
in some
Acosta
ways.
was 3 years ago?
Exactly.
Nobody.
Yeah, no.
And now he's a star. He goes on every day and does his little thing with what's her face?
Brian Karem, the columnist for Playboy, stood up in the briefing room and yelled at Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And a week later, he has a gig with CNN, and he's just
what's
like
her name
Acosta.
now? Kayla. Who's the new?
Caitlin.
The new.
Kayla
Kaylee or-
McKinney.
McKenny. Yeah. I mean, Acosta does her thing with her, and it's like, and it's sort of like, but at the same time, she'll be a bigger star now. She'll leave and have a bigger. She'll have her own show on
That's
Fox.
always happened with press secretaries, though. Going
she'll-
back to George Stephanopoulos.
Oh yeah, where's Sean Spicer today?
He's on Newsmax. Huge,
wow.
huge gig on Newsmax.
Massive.
it doesn't.
Paul Sox game?
It's a little different for Trump's people, but for press secretaries have always used that as a launching pad for a big gig.
Yeah, I can't wait to see Dee Dee Meyer's next show. But I'm saying is, but she'll have a show on Fox for sure.
Yeah,
No
Or
question.
a contributorship,
Or Trump's
Maybe
network,
not a
wherever
show.
Trump's network is when he's out of there, which I think is going to happen. Though, I am now convinced they're just going to. I'm convinced they're just going to bully people into having Trump lose. Now, I'm almost tempted to vote for Trump now. They're going to make me vote for this guy.
The most idiotic thing to me is this idea that Trump's going to lose the election and then not leave the White House.
Well, that's just crazy. I mean, that's just,
I sincerely believe that if he loses the election, a huge part of him is going to be relieved that he doesn't have to do this for another 4 years. He can just go enjoy his money.
Say the election was rigged.
his ego is so massive, though. I'm not saying he'll of course leave, but his ego is so massive he will not take this loss lightly. No fucking way. This guy loses his mind when people say he can't walk, or he's fat, or he's golf swinging.
But he'll use that as part of launching whatever media company he does, and
exactly.
he'll say it was rigged against
he'll run
him, and it
again
was
in
never
4
meant to.
years.
Yeah,
He
it's
will
like
run
the-
again.
The permanent chip on your shoulder is what he's going to have.
Which I respect. But I see this and I'm just like, this is, and this is, I thought, really well articulated. And people don't talk about it enough. We do. Is that Twitter governs every thing. I mean, it's the only way we promote our show, but I'm just saying it controls everything now. And part of it is I think you have to understand those are the rules now. Those rules are not changing. They're only going to get worse. If Trump wins again, it's only going to get worse. I mean, if Trump wins in November, which I think is obviously still a very real possibility, I actually think probably still a probability. If that happens, it's going to be 2 years from now. It's going to be fucking crazy. We'll be doing the shows here in the dark and sending them out like on actual physical cassettes to people.